He's launched himself off waterfalls most people wouldn't even get close to. He's built a life on that razor's edge where control disappears and instinct takes over. But what does any of that have to do with RVing and life on the road? Stick around, this connection is not what you think. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm Brooks. Based in the Pacific Northwest, my family of four hits the road to explore the best of RV life out west. From hidden gems and epic destinations to helpful tips and real road stories. So grab your coffee and join the journey. Hey, quick moment before we dive headfirst into this episode. This is episode 194, which means I'm getting really close to episode 200. And yeah, that tattoo goal is right around the corner. It's starting to feel a little more real every week. And honestly, I'm glad you're along for the ride and showing up here with me. That means a lot. Thank you. Also, heads up, our next newsletter drops next week, and you're going to want it. We're putting together a destinations travel guide all about the Olympic Peninsula rain shadow, which includes the towns of Port Townsend, Sequim, and Port Angeles. If that's an area that's been on your list, or you're just looking for your next trip, this is a solid place to start. If you're not on the list yet, jump in now. Hit the link in the podcast description and get signed up before it goes out. For a lot of us, the RV isn't just a way to travel. It's where adventure begins and ends. It's the trailhead before sunrise, the place you come back to after a long ride, a paddle, or miles on foot. It carries us from one stretch of wild country to the next as we chase that feeling of being outside, of resetting and seeing something new. Today's guest has taken that pursuit to another level. He's followed Whitewater across the Pacific Northwest and beyond, launching off waterfalls, pushing himself in ways most of us only watch from the shoreline, and earning a spot on Team USA's freestyle kayak team along the way. But this conversation goes further than the runs and the rapids. He opens up about the drive behind it all, the spark that kept pulling him forward, and how it shaped the life he's built. We also get into the kind of practical tips that matter when you're out there on the water yourself as a recreational paddler, so you can build confidence, sharpen your skills while staying safe on the water. Dave Fusilli, thank you so much for joining us here on RV Out West.
Yeah, I know. How's life?
Life has been well. Let's start at the beginning of your journey, that moment where curiosity turned into something more like a calling. I'm curious what those early days looked like for you when that pull toward whitewater really started to take shape. So, Dave, for those who may not know your story, tell us briefly about your background off the water as well as how whitewater kayaking first took hold in your life.
Well, I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania in a small town, real rural area. And basically, yeah, my family, my dad and my mother got me into whitewater kayaking. My dad, he he basically saw rafting on the Youghiogheny River south of Pittsburgh. He grew up in Pittsburgh. Thankfully, he was just drawn to the outdoors, grew up in the city, or in the outskirts of the city. So basically, my parents got me into paddling when I was really young. I was like 7 years old. My dad was teaching me how to roll a kayak in a swimming pool, and my mom and dad would take me down some local creeks near the house and stuff. At a young age, I was not super drawn to it. It was just like this was a while ago, so the gear sucked. It was like cold and wet, and yeah, I wasn't super drawn to it when I was younger, but I did end up having all the skills, from being a kid. So then fast forward a few years, basically I didn't paddle much. I don't know, 9, 10. Well, there's a handful of years there, basically up until I was about a senior in high school.
Okay.
I For whatever reason, I think honestly it was I was really into sports in high school, and I think I knew that high school was about to come to an end, so I'm gonna have to have something else to do with this energy. Luckily, I think I knew that about myself anyway, and so I was like, I should try kayaking again. And we were at the Cheat River Festival in West Virginia, still one of my favorite whitewater festivals, and I decided to get back in a kayak, and I was probably 16 years old, 15 or 16. And I had so much fun, and I already had the skills from being a kid. I knew how to read whitewater. I was actually able to like get the thing vertical really easily. and play around, with a kayak. I just had the skills from a kid, and then it just clicked that day.
Just took off. Yeah. So that really was kind of that moment where you're like, "Okay, this is something I'm gonna do,"
It did.
that shaped your life in that sense.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I guess as a parent, which I'm not, but I just think about my dad and mom giving me that tool. I didn't really have to choose that tool, or that experience, but I think I'm grateful that they did. They exposed me to a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, and that stuck so hard that like it was literally that day. It just the light switch just clicked on that day, and I started chasing kayaking as much as I possibly could for many, many, many years.
Well, so then as that journey has unfolded, the scope naturally starts to widen, right? You're gonna go from your local familiar runs, and what began kind of close to home quickly led into bigger whitewater,
Yeah.
pushing your skills and perspective as you take on rivers around the world. So let's get into that about what that step really looked like. Well, Dave, you've kind of paddled in some incredible places. Can you take us through a few standout expedition trips around the world that changed your perspective, both as a paddler and as a person?
Yeah, dude, for sure. Basically, that one day turned on a extremely hot fire, lit a really hot fire, and I wanted to figure out once pretty much after that day, I wanted to figure out how I could kayak as much as possible. I started raft guiding, and that put me on the water, and that got me a lot better at the sport, so 'cause I was able to be on the water every day, so my skills improved.
Was that in Pennsylvania?
That was in Pennsylvania, yeah, on
Okay.
the Youghiogheny River. From there, I basically just wanted to see as much of this stuff as I possibly could, and I couldn't really see how to I was starting to read magazines, and there were some videos, pro paddlers and sponsored athletes, and I didn't know any of this existed until I was basically 17 or 18. I didn't even know that was a thing. Actually, one of my buddies, Josh, I thought I was getting better, I was paddling a lot, and my buddy Josh, he made me do a freestyle competition, so there's these little competitions in whitewater, there's races in freestyle where you're doing different tricks and scoring points, surfing waves, and, so my buddy Josh, he made me do this competition, I wasn't gonna do it, I was like, "No, dude, I can't do that stuff," and I think I won that thing. And so then that was another light bulb, another fire lit. I was like, "Oh, wow, I am getting good at this. Maybe I can actually," the my thought was if I could get sponsored, I could get sent around the country to see all these rivers that I've now been like reading about and seeing in magazines and stuff. And I'm just like drooling over this stuff like this. How do I do this? And so it ended up that I did get sponsored by Piranha Kayaks, who in 2007, I work for them today still. So that was a good thing, obviously. They're great people.
Yes.
And that ended up taking me all around the country.
Was there ever like a really aha moment there that on the river where it was like, I don't know, first time going off a waterfall or, something along those lines?
Yeah, there was one that stood out. It was like that first year traveling around the country. For one, I'm now paddling all this stuff that I dreamed of and I saw in magazines and stuff, and the dream is coming true and right in front of my eyes, and it is so amazing. But yeah, there was one specific moment, yeah, at a waterfall actually. We were on the Royal Gorge in California, North Fork of the American, and we were standing about we get to this like 40-foot waterfall, and it's like one of the most beautiful waterfalls I'd ever seen. It was like the tallest waterfall that I'd ever seen from Pennsylvania, like West Virginia. I had never seen anything that tall and completely runnable. Like this thing was like
Right.
perfect. It was like so good to kayak off of. And yeah, I remember looking at that thing and kind of, yeah, having that moment, just like you're saying, was like, holy heck, here I am. And I'm about to kayak off like the biggest and one of the most beautiful things I would ever seen. It was and then it expanded from there, and then it went from there. That trip kind
Wait,
of
let's back up real quick. Let's back so you did a full send off that waterfall then?
of that height, yeah, yeah. It was about 40 feet-ish tall. I'd only seen, like, anything from, I don't know, maybe 25 feet-ish at that time, so it was getting close to doubling what I'd ever seen.
How did that make you feel when you were, you're all alone in your kayak? Sure, you've got your buddies standing around watching and there to help rescue if necessary, but it's you against nature as you're getting ready to prep to go off. What kind of was going through your mind?
As time has gone on, that that moment has kinda, like, slowed down a lot for me above a waterfall, but that one, yeah, that specifically was definitely heart racing, it was like it looked so good though, like, it looked so clean and yeah, like a very, very good waterfall, but yeah, just trying to stay calm and focusing on the line and also focusing on not doing much with your body movement in general, any kind of small movement becomes a larger movement at the bottom. So you really got to stay. I was really thinking about just kind of staying neutral and not doing anything too erratic.
Have you done any first descents?
I have done a few, but not many. I was never a focus of mine and never anything I really cared about.
Tell me about one of those.
I've run a couple waterfalls and on a, I think one on Rock Creek, a couple drainages over from where I live now, another 40-foot waterfall, and there was a 20-footer somewhere in Pennsylvania, but it was nothing I ever really
I wasn't the
desired or
focus.
cared about.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nothing that it didn't really drive me. It was all about just like seeing things for my first time.
And you've done the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, like five different times. Yeah.
Were those all unsupported? I mean, just you and, your paddling buddies and friends and taking your food and going?
I did 2 raft support where the
Okay.
rafts had
Yeah.
they set you up with all your food and everything you need, and then I've done 3 self-support, so just all the food and drink and cooking, all that stuff all in your kayak. Yeah,
What's that trip like? Just in a nutshell.
it's
I
so
can't even
nice, dude.
imagine.
Yeah, the those 2 trips are very if you're in the raft or in the kayak support, they're very different. Like, the raft is like you have a whole setup, so you're setting up an entire kitchen, and it's much more elaborate, right? Which it's nice though, it's really comfortable and a lot slower. The kayak support is just much more simplified. So you pull up to the beach, you pull out your one chair, you pull out your freeze dried meal, you start boiling some water. So it's a much more simple version of it. And I like them both. I couldn't really just being in the canyon is really special.
That's awesome.
I'd take it either way. Yeah.
Speaking of which, you've talked about, what it's like to go through some of these canyons and paddle some of the whitewater. How has that kind of translated into a different kind of challenge? And really, I'm curious, kind of at what point did your paddling path lead you towards that more competitive side and ultimately representing Team USA on the freestyle team?
That's a good question I might not even know the answer for. I
Was there ever a moment where you're like, you've been doing all these freestyle comps around, the United States, and then kind of how did you get put on Team USA? Because that's a pretty big,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, it was basically part of the job to compete. That was part of what I needed to do to represent the brand as I was traveling around.
Right.
I was never I've never been, like, that competitive in paddling. Of course, I've been competitive against myself, like, especially in freestyle kayaking where you're trying to land a trick to score points. It's always fun to try to learn stuff, right? So, like, learning those tricks and trying to figure that stuff out I was competitive against myself, I guess. It's just like, I wanna figure that out. And that just naturally obviously, I got better at it, and then US freestyle team trials was in Colorado where I was already traveling through. So naturally, we competed at team trials at the US team trials, and it was on a wave feature. So in freestyle, there's kind of like two features. There's like a hydraulic, more foam pile, and then a wave, which is a little taller, greener. I was much better and enjoyed much better at it because I enjoyed it a lot more, but surfing waves. And that team trial ended up being on a wave in Colorado and one that I liked. And so, yeah, I ended up placing 3rd, and they took the top 5 competitors went to the US or went to World Championships. Yeah, I was really excited. It was cool. I'd beaten some guys that beat me a lot, and it was just my style. It was just handed, it fit my style of paddling, the wave and everything, and I felt pretty confident, and I like it. It was fun, But yeah, it was a cool experience. Got a life jacket still to hang on to, and yeah, got to go. It was on the Ottawa up in Canada, and it was on a wave there too. But it was cool. Yeah, it was cool.
Let me ask you this. For someone who's probably unfamiliar, how would you describe freestyle kayaking in a way that captures the intensity and skill involved?
It's kind of like acrobatics. It'd be like a mix of acrobatics and surfing, I would say. If you're familiar with surfing, surfboard, you've got like that speed. You're doing aerials to score points, which is it's crazy because people are just now start. I mean, well, from to my knowledge, more recently, I'm seeing aerials in surfing. I hadn't seen aerials in surfing till, I don't know, the last 5 or so years, and I've always thought, like, "Why are surfers not airing it out?" Like, we've been doing this in the kayak for a long time.
Right.
So yeah, you're doing, like, aerial maneuvers off of a wave similar to a surfboard, and in the ocean, the wave is moving towards the beach, and in the river, the that same exact shape is just staying in one spot because the water's moving and the rock or some kind of a feature under the water is creating
The way.
the, uh, the water to stand up. Yeah, but very, very similar, and you now see surfers are starting to realize that you can
Find the
find these
endless wave
waves
in
on
a river.
rivers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
we're starting to see more surfers on the river. Yeah, it's really fun though.
Dave Fusili has walked us through how it all began, the rivers that pushed him forward, and the journey that led to Team USA's freestyle kayak team. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll get into the lessons behind those experiences and what they mean for all of us out on the water. The RV Out West newsletter keeps you connected between episodes. You'll get episode highlights, Pacific Northwest destination guides, plus helpful tips, fun trivia, and opportunities to share your RV stories. It's everything you love about RV Out West delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up now using the link right there in this episode's podcast description, or head over to rvoutwest.com to join today. You're not going to want to miss the next issue. Welcome back. The conversation picks up right where it left off, getting into the lessons behind the runs, the mindset it takes, and what it all means once you're out there on the water yourself. It's pretty cool that you've experienced the intensity of competing at that level. And over time, it seems that, your focus has started to shift into something more about the lifestyle and where you want to be. That move from Pennsylvania out to Washington feels like a big part of that evolution. What was it that called you west? And what did you find here that's kept you rooted?
Yeah, I mean, initially it was just like I was talking about earlier, I ended up, sponsored by Piranha Kayaks and sent all over the country, and I consciously end my travels would just kind of like check out all the towns and think about, could I live here? Could I live there? I was Pennsylvania was a great place to grow up, but I was trying to leave there when I was like 16. I just I can't I had amazing parents, like I have amazing parents, and they showed me, yeah, great time, but for whatever reason, deep inside of me, I was ready to get the hell out of there
Yeah.
as soon as possible. So anyway, as I traveled around the country, I was kind of like, okay, what's the hot spot? Where would I enjoy living the most? And it had always landed here in the Pacific Northwest. I think, you know, from then it was basically the beauty of the whitewater, the accessibility. Pretty much that was it. There's like these beautiful deep canyons and crystal clear, pristine water, beautiful waterfalls. Yeah, just the neat, like the ferns, the moss,
Ecosystem out here is unbelievable. I mean,
it's so beautiful. And one thing, a big thing was the like how beautiful the water was because I grew up in in northwestern Pennsylvania, it's like it was all strip mined, and so like the creeks that I grew up on were like fully polluted, like orange, like no life in them. And so that could have been another reason that I didn't even know about. It's just like that, seeing the beauty of the water, and that was just like, wow, that's so special. It's amazing because I didn't really grow up like that.
Let me ask you this. What are some of your favorite rivers? Or even, you know what? Because, I think a lot of our listeners are not chasing whitewater. They're more kind of the recreational flatwater paddlers. So what are some of your favorite places here in the Pacific Northwest that are just great paddling spots that offer full experiences for all sorts of paddlers at different, you know,
Yeah.
stages of experience?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, local, just even the Columbia is a beautiful paddle. I mean, it is like it's cool. I come out of the mouth of the White Salmon, which is harder whitewater upstream, but paddling out into the Columbia, like that view it's so beautiful. The ocean, like I go to Pacific City and paddle around and surf out there sometimes. Super beautiful place. There's a brewery there. It's really nice.
Yeah,
It's
any
cool.
place you can go
This
paddle and then grab a pint. Paddle and
Yeah,
pint
no
sound
doubt.
great.
I was just on the Skycomish last weekend.
Okay.
Um, it's like it's easier whitewater class, I think 2, 3, but crystal clear water, like amazing mountains nearby.
Is there any cool lakes, just like real chill flat water for, you know, somebody with
Yeah.
practically zero
Um,
skill, but at least it's beautiful?
one There's a couple up on Hood that I've been to. I don't know if I'll know the names though, with beautiful views of Mount Hood.
I actually was at one of those lakes with you.
What was it? Do you
'Cause
remember?
yeah, we were shooting that video with
That
Josh, with
Yeah,
Josh Riccio
totally.
and Tyler.
That's the one I'm
Yeah,
thinking
I don't
of.
remember. That's just it's just outside of Mount Hood, the town of Mount Hood. Yeah, that was a beautiful lake.
It's so cool. Yeah, and it's out there a little bit, and you have amazing view of
I will
Hood.
Google it, and I'll put
Yeah,
it in the show notes, because I don't remember, so I'll have to go look at a
that
map and find
that
it.
that one comes to mind. It
Yeah,
is
that
it's
was a
really
really cool lake, you're right.
spectacular. Yeah.
Well, we are an RV show, and so for someone traveling in a van or an RV, where have been some fun go-to camping spots that kinda play perfectly for a day on the water paddling, and then, you're easy to camp right there, and do you have any recommendations on some fun space?
If we could remember that name of that damn lake, that that would be good.
There was a national forest campground up there. So I will find that lake and that campground, and I will put it in the show notes. So that
Perfect.
one was a cool place.
Perfect. I was thinking too, honestly, when I was talking about Pacific City out on the coast, that place is really awesome too. There's a campground right across the street, and it's really small, and I think they have RV hookups there. And then
Okay.
you can walk, like I said, you walk right across the street. You've got the pub right there, then the ocean's there. Sometimes really good surfing. If you're doing some paddling, if the tide's not or the waves are not too aggressive, you can paddle out around the corner or out around the rock. That place is really cool, really pretty.
Do you happen to
Um,
remember the name of it? It's okay if you didn't. I'm just
the
curious.
campground I don't know, but it's Pelican Brewing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's right across the road from there. That's a really
Okay.
cool spot. Trying to think of other ones that would be easy access.
I know one too would be like Nehalem Bay State Park
Mhm.
on the Oregon coast. You got some decent flat water because that Nehalem Bay, you have the bay and then you have the ocean too. So you can kind of do both.
There
And
is
then, oh,
there's
yeah,
a
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
There's also a RV park right across the bridge in Hood River here, actually. This one is on the Washington side on your way to White Salmon. So
Okay.
you just cross you're coming from Hood, cross the bridge into Washington, and it's right on your right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, camping really serves as a base camp for paddling, but once you're on the water, it can be a whole different environment. And that's where some potential real risks come into play. So I'd like to kind of get into a few moments and experiences that have stayed with you. Can you share an experience where something has gone wrong on the water? What did it look like in real time, and how did you and your friends or team respond?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got a couple of them.
It's okay. I mean, in the at the level with which you paddle, unfortunately, it's bound to happen
Yeah.
sometimes. So, can
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah.
share with us one of those experiences or 2?
Sure. Yeah, one of my wilder ones. I've got, like, myself beaten up pretty good, but
Yeah, the first time I met you, you had a chipped tooth, and I was calling you Chip
you were calling me Chip, that's right.
because you
I
had
wonder
had a little incident with a rock, and the
I
rock won, and your tooth lost. So,
I think that was probably on Upper Cherry.
you're still in my phone as Dave Chip Fusilli.
I love that. I got a new tooth. Like, honestly, recently, it's not even that old. Um, yeah, so yeah, that experience was flipping over and hitting my face on a rock wall, which you just being a non-kayaker, you'd think that would happen quite often, but it really doesn't. It's like it's funny, and also you don't hit your head that often either, like, sometimes. I've honestly hit my head, like 3 times in my whole life of kayaking, flipping over.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
One time hit my face, which is where chip came from. Um, yeah, I had a wild experience with one of my best friends who yeah, we were running this waterfall, and it was like a two-tiered waterfall, and it was a 20-footer into, like, a 50 or 60-foot drop, and the 20-footer it was kinda a little tricky, it was kinda technical, so you had to take, like, a kind of a specific stroke off of the waterfall to land pointing right, which you needed to do. If you didn't land pointing right, there was kind of an undercut wall on the left or an overhanging rock that you'd get kinda shoved up against, and I was explaining this to my buddy, and I was like, "Yeah, man, you gotta, just make sure you take a late left sweep stroke, so your bow lands to the right, and there's another calm spot there where we can regroup before you run the 60-footer." And well, he didn't take a sweep stroke. He ended up getting shoved up against the rock and getting swimming out of his kayak. So now, and then so he's right above a 60-footer. So he swims out of his kayak, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to swim off this next waterfall, right? And he somehow grabs like the wall of, yeah, where he swam, this like undercut wall. So he's hanging on, and on the other side of the river trying to figure out what to do. And I'm not, there's like, it's like walled in. So there's like no real good place for me to get out. Usually we have, for your listeners, we have a bag of rope basically. And that's how you save people. You throw them the bag of rope, they grab the rope, you pull them towards you. But I didn't really have a great place to get out to throw the rope. He's hanging onto this wall, just hanging there, getting like kind of pulled under it, trying not to go off the 60-footer. I end up finding this like crack in the wall where I'm able to like kind of wedge my kayak and crawl out of it. And now I'm standing on this like small rock basically attached to my kayaks because I didn't have anywhere to put it. So I have a strap on it. And then I yelled at him, threw the rope across the river. Somehow he grabbed it, and then I start pulling as hard as I can. And you gotta remember there's current in there, and it's sweeping off the waterfall. So I think he has the rope in his hand, but I still was like, he's probably gonna swim over this waterfall anyway. But I'll do my best to see if I can get him over here. So I'm just pulling, 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 and ended up pendulling him over and swinging him into this like somewhat calm spot where I was standing, and got him out of the river, and all was good. But it was a wild experience that stick with me forever. It was crazy.
That is really intense. And how long would you say start to finish that rescue took?
Oh, it was probably like 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. So he was hanging on 2 to 3 minutes there before you were able to get
Yeah,
the rope to
I
him.
think so. It wasn't long. I moved quick. I knew he didn't have much. I knew he wouldn't be able to hang on very long. So I was just going as fast as I could, but
Wow, that's scary.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And how has that experience shaped your mindset today when you go paddling or in general?
Um. Yeah. I definitely like to see that next person to come down if I'm running a drop or something like that. I always want to have an eye I just want to keep my eye on the people behind me. Just trying to be in good eye contact and make sure they make that next move before I move further downstream, especially if it's someone that I'm not familiar with, which is kind of more rare, I guess, but these days. But yeah, I just like to definitely make sure they make the last rapid before I move downstream all the time. And that could be anything I'm doing. Like if I'm on my dirt bike too, cruising around, which I do a lot, I just want to make sure they make that move or make sure they make that turn. 'Cause it's so easily you get separated. It's like crazy. Even when you think the person knows where to go, it's still next thing you know, you're looking around for them for an hour. Like should
Yep.
have waited there for 1 minute, 2 minutes.
After talking about some of those bigger, more intense moments on the water, it's helpful to bring it back to where most people are, which is just getting out and paddling recreationally. So let's shift into some practical tips and advice for the everyday paddler looking to stay safe and build confidence on the water. What would you say are the biggest safety fundamentals they should understand?
Yeah, I would say even if you're getting onto any kind of moving current, just I think like making sure there's like no, even if it's pretty mellow but moving, wood is always a problem, especially in the Northwest. Making sure there's no trees or anything in the area or like across the river, because that can cause you a lot of problems really quickly. But yeah, just essentially having like at least a life jacket. You don't always need a helmet, but you should definitely always have a life jacket on, I would say.
Even if you're on a lake, right? Life jacket
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
lake.
even if you're chilling on a lake.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you're just lake paddling, yeah, you want that, and keeping an eye on your people too, because you can still get separated and might not be in too much danger, but could cause you a bunch of wasted time.
Can you break down kind of the basics? And I know we're an audio only podcast, but can you kind of just break down the basics of an effective paddle stroke and where most beginners get it wrong?
You want to basically engage your core. Most people are just going to be like sitting back on the back band and kind of like, yeah, recliner. The kayak's not really a recliner, so you wanna sit, think about your weight being on your butt or your butt bones, so you're sitting straight up, and then when you're taking a forward stroke, you wanna be, like, reaching your arm straight out, putting it in the water, and then rotating with your entire body. That's gonna be the most efficient. It takes time. It's easier for me to just say this than, to
Of
to go
course.
do it. But yeah, you wanna think about using your core and sitting up straight. Your core is much stronger. Your arms get tired quickly. If you can get some rotation with your core as you're pulling, that'll help you out a lot. I'd say those are the two quickest and easiest tips.
And what should your grip on the paddle shaft be like?
About shoulder width apart.
And then your actual grip, is it loose? Is it whole hand? Like, how are you?
Yeah, you pretty much, yeah, whole hand around it. All paddles, you're gonna have like a control hand. So your right hand generally is gonna be turning the thing back and forth, and your left hand can be really loose. I think when I'm pushing away, I'll loosen my hand. So you don't have to be totally gripping all the time, but yeah, whole hand around for sure.
Okay. And if you could give one piece of advice to a brand new paddler, what would it be?
I think that just what I said is probably the most important thing. If you've never kayaked, if you've never paddled at all, and you're just getting on out on any kind of moving water. Yeah, just sitting up and thinking about using your core to paddle. I think it's like the most important, and you're gonna have a better time because you're not gonna feel as tired if you're using, more of your whole body than just your arms. And I think that experience is gonna be more fun and enjoyable if you have a little bit of a just kind of think about your body positioning when you're doing it a little bit better.
Okay. To wrap it all up, if you had to sum up, what has kayaking and the lifestyle around it taught you about how to live well out here in the Pacific Northwest?
That I could talk forever about that, I think.
I know.
Kayaking, I mean, it's completely shaped my life. Um, it's just the experiences, it's the adventures, it's the beauty, it's the flow, it's the vibe of the community. In the community in general, it's very tight. It's like a family that I'm so grateful to be a part of.
Fair.
Yeah, it is my life, and it's yeah, it's an amazing community, it really is. Everyone's so positive and helpful, and like the story I was telling you, especially when you're doing hard kayaking, you're looking out for each other. So it's a team. It's a family and a team at the same time. But yeah, just being out and I do other sports, and I always say this, there's not some of the sports that I do, I like a lot, like riding my dirt bike and stuff. It's really cool. You still get out in nature, you still get these amazing views, and it's a challenge and all that stuff, and teamwork as well sometimes. But there's nothing that puts you in the element. And I've said this before, but you're like in kayaking in whitewater, it's like you're dancing with one of the most powerful elements on the planet. And being able to do that is it's just really special. And yeah, being in the flow, being with nature, moving with it, it's really awesome. And I'm grateful for it.
Well, Dave, you've done paddled big whitewater, you've set up camp and done van life in the Pacific Northwest. It's clear how much time and passion that you put into this. So to wrap things up, where can people find you online so they can follow along on your adventures and keep up with everything you're doing?
It's at Dave Fusilli at Instagram is that's where I post the most. So I put a lot of videos up there.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on RV Out West. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Hope you all have a great afternoon.
All right, my friends, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or family member. Also, the conversation doesn't have to end here. If anything we talked about sparked your curiosity, head over to rvoutwest.com and check out the show notes. We've got links to everything we mentioned, so you can dive deeper, explore more, and maybe even start planning your own next adventure. And while you're there, make sure to sign up for our free monthly newsletter. That's where we share things first, like behind the scene updates, new destination travel guides, and a few extras we don't always talk about on the show. It's the best way to stay connected with us and be a part of the community we're all building. I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. If you think you've seen a lot of Washington, next week just might change your mind. We're sitting down with author, podcaster, hiker, trail runner Craig Romano, a guy who's logged more than 35,000 miles on trails. And he's bringing that experience straight to the show. From well-known routes to the kind of places most people drive right past. We're digging into what makes hiking in Washington state so deep, so varied, and so worth exploring. Thanks for listening to RV Out West. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed the show, tell a friend and please leave a rating or a review. It would mean a lot. Special thanks to Scott Home Music for our intro song, We Are One. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook to join in on the conversation. Now, get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.